Sup nerds, I just had my pre-release last night. Most places in North America had their pre-release a week ago, but sadly some parts of the country didn't get product in time to do their pre-release. So we actually had a release event, I guess you could call. So we did end up coming second in that, which was pretty awesome. Had a lot to do with our pulls, just gonna be honest. Sometimes in these types of events, if there are very, very powerful cards and combinations, you can just run through the room if you just have a few of those cards, if you just get lucky with your pulls. And we did definitely get lucky, but I'm going to go ahead and go over my deck profile for what we ran in the pre-release of BT9. Starting off, we pulled 3 Digitama. Each one of these, I believe, I'm not 100% positive about this one, but each one of these, I believe, can interact with 1 to 2 cards in the deck. Pretty much they're vanillas, but yeah, we were fortunate enough to pull 3. 3 to 4 is usually the sweet spot for sealed events. All right, and on to our rookies. We pulled 4 2-drop 3K vanilla beat sticks. These typically, if you have the option, you want to actually keep these in your hand you want to hard play these from your hand instead of digivolving on your Tama, just because they're 2 to drop as opposed to 3 to drop like most rookies are. But yeah, just vanilla beat sticks, always nice to see these. And then we pulled 2 Pomumon, I don't know how to say that, and 2 Pillowmon. These are the 2 new Floodgate Digimon, 2 new Floodgate rookies that say, or all turns, both players cannot play Digimon by effects. So the only card that I can think of that this actually stops in the sealed event is Meikumon, which is a security Digimon. It's the level 4 purple-yellow Digimon. It'll play itself if you check it in security. So whenever I was poking at my opponent's security and like if I gave them an extra body, I could potentially lose the game on their turn if I couldn't clear everything. I did slam one of these guys on the field before I poked, just to ensure that that never happened. I actually never checked a Meikumon, and spoilers, we actually did pull 1 Meikumon, and it was never checked in our security either. So these guys did not actually do anything during the entire sealed event besides just be beaters, but it was nice to just have that extra insurance versus a Meikumon check. And then we pulled 1 3-drop 4K beater. Pretty nice. Just being 4K is pretty massive for a rookie. You can crash with a lot of the champions that are actually in this set, so that was pretty nice. 2 Tapermon. Tapermon is all turns. While this Digimon has 2 or more colors, it gets 1000 DP. This is pretty sick because there are a lot of dual color Digimon in this set. So whenever I saw this, a lot of the time it actually had its effects being active, so that was pretty cool. And then our last 2 rookies, we did pull a Salamon. This Salamon is on play, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 2-color purple card among them to your hand, place the rest of the at the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is really strong if you have a 2-color purple card that you want to add to your hand, and you're willing to just bot deck 4 cards just to get to it. And I guess I'll go ahead and tell you guys. So we did pull a DeathXMon. We pulled a regular DeathXMon in our pre-release packs. Very, very lucky. That card is super, super broken and very powerful in a sealed format. I believe nearly every time we saw him, we won the game. And we did see him very often. We searched him 1 time with this card, but we only saw this card like once or twice where we actually got the search effect. But we did play this card and the Salamon X Antibody combo with it. For those of you that don't know, this guy has an alternate Digivolve cost where you can Digivolve on any Salamon for 0. So you can actually just do this, even if it's not pre-release, you can do this because it ignores the color, it's just looking for the name. And this has the effect of when Digivolving with the top card of your security stack, you may add it to your hand if you do recovery +1. Pretty much you're always going to resolve this effect because there's like 0 drawback to it, unless it's like a tamer, I guess, that you would just rather your opponent check, or an option that you would rather them check. I actually got this off 1 time, I believe, either once or twice, but I definitely did trigger the effect once at least, which is pretty cool. And that is it. We were playing 13 rookies. I do tend to run like 12 to 13 rookies, even though it's a 40 card deck limit for pre-release, for those of you that don't know. It's because not being able to go up into a stack if your opponent goes into a stack is really, really bad. You end up losing those games pretty quickly. Whenever it spirals out of control like that. And onto our champions, we pulled 1 3-drop 5K DP champion, 2 to Digivolve. That's pretty sick. I saw him like once or twice, I think. Then we pulled 1 Godumon X Antibody. There are no regular Godumons in this set, so this Digivolve, alternate Digivolve cost is never going to come up, but the Inheritable is actually really strong. It's when attacking, if you have 3 or more security cards, one of your opponent's Digimon gets -2000 DP for the turn. This actually came up several times in the tournament. Pretty much every time it came up, it actually helped me seal the game. Then we pulled one Starmon, 4-drop, which is pretty sick, 6,000 DP. So just a vanilla beat stick, and very cheap to drop from hand. I was cool with that one. And then another one, Ninjamon. These are the same card essentially for this event. And then we pulled one Mekumon, as I said. We did pull a pre-release stamp, which is pretty cool. Would have preferred an alt art, but you know, I'm not going to complain. The on deletion is actually pretty cool. As I said, it is a security Digimon. The on deletion is inheritable, as if this Digimon has 2 or more colors, you gain 2 memory. That's pretty sick if you can get this underneath one of your 2-color Digimon, which there are several, as I said, in the set, at the level 5 and level 6 and level 7 level, actually. Relatively easily proc this as long as you pulled some of those cards. The only thing that sucks about this is it's 3 to Digivolve, and it's like pretty much never worth that unless you're like, I guess, just Digivolving just to choke your opponent to 1. Like it like lets you do that randomly. But as I said, this was never checked in security. This was just basically nothing the entire tournament. I did, I believe, proc this on deletion effect 1 time, and it just gave me 2 extra memory on my turn. It wasn't really a big deal. Then we pulled one Kaus Gamamon. I don't think there are any Gamamons in this set, so the Digivolve alternate thing can't happen in the sealed event. And then this Digimon can't be blocked, so you can swing for game randomly. That never came up. This guy was a 6k beat stick the entire sealed event for me. And then we pulled one Growlmon X Antibody. There are no regular Growlmons, so the alternate Digivolve is not going to happen. But this inheritable, your turn, add 1,000 DP to the maximum DP you can choose with DP-based deletion effects. Did come up, I believe, just 1 time, but it did let me seal a game. Then we pulled one of these guys. I'm not even going to attempt to say this. 2 to Digivolve, 7k, 5-drop. Pretty cool, just beat stick. We pulled one Tesla Jellymon. This is a 6k beat stick, and it has the effect of end of attack. Once per turn, you can trash 2 cards in your hand to unsuspend this Digimon. This is cool if you want to run over your opponent's rookies that swung in your security and were lucky enough to survive, or just their level 4s that are smaller than this. But swinging in your opponent's security, there's a decent chance it's going to die at 6k. You could definitely survive though. And then we pulled one blocker. This is a really good blocker that we actually got for pretty much any Black-War Greymon deck, or just dual color red-black deck that you're going to build from here on out. He's 2 to Digivolve, which is really, really nice for a dual color black-red level 4, because most of them are 3 if they do have like an effect as opposed to an inheritable effect. 6,000 DP, which is pretty cool. And then he has blocker, as I said. The only downside is when attacking, you lose 3 memory instead of the regular 2 for most level 4 blockers. But I'll take that. I mean, you're never really swinging the blockers anyway unless it's for game, so that memory cost is never super relevant anyway. And that is it for our level 4s. We are running 10. And then on to our ultimates. We ran a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 to Digivolve ultimates. These are all really good. These guys are 9k, which is kind of insane. Like I ran over at least a couple of ultimates with this guy. Probably the same with this guy as well, being 8k, which is massive. And then 7k on this guy. But he's 6 to hard drop from hand, which is cool. But yeah, these are just here for the cheap Evo. I always prioritize cheap Evos whenever I'm constructing for sealed first, unless it just has a really broken effect, and then I will make sure I have it in the deck. Speaking of broken effects, we did pull Metal Greymon X Antibody. It can Digivolve on top of Metal Greymon for 0, but we don't have any regular Metal Greymons in the set, so that's not a thing. And then when Digivolving, this Digimon gains security attack +1 until the end of your opponent's turn, which is pretty sick, because you can have an ultimate with +1 security, which is always nice. Then if this Digimon has Metal Greymon or X Antibody instead of Digivolution cards, it gets a +3,000 DP until the end of your opponent's next turn, which is pretty sick because it'll stay 11k. Just like if it doesn't have any other buffs, they can't swing over it with like an ultimate or something like this guy, I guess. Whenever it says X Antibody, it's referring specifically to the option card, the white option card that comes in the set. That is something that as you read BT9 cards, I think most people on first glance assume that it's just talking about a Digimon with X Antibody and its traits in the Digivolution cards, but it's not. But it is referring to the option. It has to have the option exactly or a Metal Greymon in its sources in order to proc the secondary effect. We actually never got the secondary effect, and I never swung with this when it got the extra check when I went into it. So this was just a vanilla, besides the fact that it is a cyborg, which I'll get to why that's relevant later. But for those of you that may have played in the sealed event, you might know what I'm talking about if you also pulled that card. We did pull one Maycrackmon Vicious Mode. I'm very sad that this is just common. Like I've been super butt sad about this since since I looked at this, since I looked at BT9 early in like January of this year and got super excited for the set. The fact that it's common, I knew that I could not ever get a holo version of this until they release an alt art. Please Bandai, give us an alt art of this card. The entire rest of the line gets an alt art, but you don't give the level 5, which like arguably is like the best card in the line of the McCrackmon line from BT9, an alt art. Like, come on, man. At least you should have at least made it uncommon so I can get a pre-release stamp version that's holo, but whatever, I digress. But anyways, it is a 4 to Evo, which is expensive. 6k DP 6 drop, which is not that expensive for a level 5, that has both an on play and when digivolving effect. So either way you can proc this effect, so you can digivolve or hard slam it. So the effect is you may trash one card in your hand. If you trash a purple card, delete one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon. If you trash a yellow card, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn. So notice that this does not say Digimon card, it just says card. You can discard an option or a tamer or a Digimon. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it's a card. To proc this effect, so you can discard a dual color tamer, a dual color option, a dual color Digimon, and if it's yellow purple, you can actually proc both effects at the same time, which is pretty sick. That's the ideal scenario because you can pop a rookie and then most likely another rookie because of the neg 3000 DP. Obviously the combos with this card and Hellscythe are really good because it turns Hellscythe into neg 9k, which is pretty sick, and that's why I was really excited about this card. This effect never really came up. I may have procced it once, but I honestly don't even remember. And this has the same on deletion inheritable as the Meikumon, which is DeathXMon has 2 or more colors, gain some memory on deletion. Because Hellscythe is a card, do expect to see this card in at least 3 in any Mastermon deck you play from here on out. And then on to our last ultimate, definitely the best one. Megadramon. He is another 4 to Digivolve Evo, but he's 8k, which is pretty nice. I definitely loved seeing this guy every time I saw him because his when Digivolving effect is just delete one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers with a play cost of 3 or less. I deleted, I think, 2 Tamers. Most people don't put Tamers in their decks in pre-releases, but I deleted 2 Tamers, I believe, over the course of the tournament, and it was always really nice to delete those Tamers because they were ones that I didn't want to stay on the field. And then I deleted like 1 or 2 rookies with this thing. But this effect is really strong. Also, the inheritable is even better because it's when attacking, if this Digimon has Machine or Dragonkin in its traits, do the same thing. Delete an opponent's Digimon or Tamer with a play cost of 3 or less. Not once per turn, pretty cool if you can restand. Spoilers, we cannot restand in this deck with a Machine or Dragonkin, so like that's never going to come up, but it is pretty cool. Definitely my favorite ultimate to see just because like you can build in your raising and get this effect if you have certain megas in this set on top of him, or you can just push out and then digivolve into him to delete something randomly. But that is it. We were playing 9 ultimates. And on to our megas. We are running 1 Bihumon. He is a 13 hard drop, 13k or 13,000 DP Digimon, 5 to Digivolve. Very expensive, but hear me out. His effect is when Digivolving, unsuspend up to 2 Digimon and or Tamers. So this can be you or your opponent's Digimon. Keep that in mind. So you can unsuspend him if you like swung with an ultimate or something and survived, or you know, something like that. But then gain 1 memory for each of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon and Tamers. So this is why you would potentially want to target your opponent's stuff, because it could maybe keep you from passing the turn. I only saw this guy a few times, but I did Digivolve into him for 1 memory. Essentially, like I gained 4 memory back on the Digivolve, which is pretty sick because the second effect is also pretty nice. For every 2 unsuspended Digimon and or Tamers your opponent has in play, trash 1 card from the top of your opponent's security stack. So this is pretty filthy. I went into this guy on that turn, then I Digivolved into him for 5 and then gained 4 memory back. I passed my opponent 1 memory and trashed the top 2 cards of their security because they had 3 rookies on the field and a Tamer, and they were all unsuspended, and I just got to choke them to 1, put a Mega on the field, and trash the top 2 cards of their security, which is pretty nice. Definitely a very strong card for this format. If you were able to pull him, he's a super rare, so he's not going to be in everyone's deck, but I enjoyed seeing him. I think making a deck with him would probably be kind of fun, but definitely not going to be good this format if you guys are familiar with how this meta is going to be. And then on to our next one of our X Antibody Megas. This is Magnadramon X Antibody. Very sick looking art. This is actually just a regular rare. It's not even an alt art, but it is a very pretty card. Shout out to Bandai for upping their art on their rares. It's 12,000 DP, 4 to Digivolve, and then the when Digivolving effect, if Magnadramon or X Antibody, referring to the option specifically, is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards. All of your opponent's Digimon and security Digimon get minus 1000 DP for the turn for each card in your security stack. So going into this guy with 3 or 4 security cards still, and having the option underneath him, because we're never going to have a regular Magnadramon underneath him because that's not in this set. It's pretty filthy. I did this in round 4, I believe. I went in him like, I think a total of 2 to 3 times when I actually had the option underneath him, but going into him even without the option is actually really strong because of his second effect, which is end of attack. Once per turn, you may add the top card of your security stack to your hand to unsuspend this Digimon. So basically he has the BT4 War Greymon, the yellow War Greymon's effect, except for he just doesn't neg DP when it triggers, and it's also end of attack, which is pretty nice because it lets you see if he survives the check before you actually unsuspend him, which is probably my favorite part. They definitely did that because of how the X antibody option works, but I still appreciate that you're not burning one of your security, even though it's going to your hand, for no reason if he's just going to die to the check. Then it has an alternate Digivolve cost of Digivolve 1 on top of a Magnadramon, but as I said, there's not a regular Magnadramon in the set, so that's never going to come up. But really cool card. I enjoyed seeing this when I did draw it. And then onto our Raigenmon, I guess, I think is how you say that. 11 hard play, 11,000 DP, 3 to Digivolve. You ignore the color requirements. I forgot to mention that, but most of you guys probably already knew that. You ignore the color requirements for pre-release in sealed events for Digimon. So all of these Digimon can Digivolve on any color. So that's why I haven't been mentioning the colors that we can Digivolve on top of. And then it has an effect of hand. So this, you can activate this from your hand. Main, if you have a Digimon in play with Justimon or Raidenmon in its name, you may pay 1 memory to place this card under that Digimon as its bottom Digivolution card. We didn't pull Raidenmon, and I don't think there is a Justimon in this set, so that never came up. But it has a when Digivolving effect of you may trash 1 Digimon card with Machine or Cyborg in its traits in your hand to have one of your opponent's Digimon get minus 4,000 DP for the turn. That's a really cool effect, and I actually did that pretty much every time I Digivolved into this guy, which is pretty nice. We were fortunate enough to pull enough Cyborg / Machines to where I think I always had one in hand whenever I had this guy. And then the when attacking inheritable is one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 4,000 DP for the turn, not once per turn, which is pretty sick if you can unsuspend. But yeah, really strong card. And then on to more X antibody shenanigans. We did pull a Metal Garurumon X antibody, 12 play cost, 12,000 DP, 4 to Digivolve, alternate Digivolve of 1 from a Metal Garurumon, but there aren't any in this set, so ignore that. And the when Digivolving effect of unsuspended Digimon, and it gains blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. Pretty nice because you can just go into this guy. There we go. Just put him in a matte sleeve. There was quite a bit of glare on him, but a pretty cool effect because it can keep you from just dying randomly. You can go into this guy to unsuspend and gain blocker, and he's going to be a 12k blocker just naturally. Which is bigger than most things in the format, so unless they just go wide, you can keep them from swinging at you. The other effect is your turn. Once per turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended, if Metal Garurumon or X antibody, specifically referring to the option, is in its Digivolution cards, return all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level to their owner's hand. So I believe I procced this effect once in the entire tournament, but it was pretty much game ending because my opponent's only Digimon on the field was a Mega, so I bounced their Mega back to their hand. They didn't have anything in their raising, and it was pretty much GG's from there. But very strong effect. This deck is going to be very annoying for those of you that are unaware. Blue is still going to be tier 1. It's just going to be this deck and not blue hybrid this time. So just prepare yourselves for that. And then on to, I would say, probably our MVP, War Greymon X Antibody. This card is absolutely filthy in a sealed event with basic like minimal removal for megas, because once you get this on the field, especially if you have the X antibody option underneath him to where you're proccing a secondary effect, it's pretty much just over. Like there's not much your opponent can do against that. But he has a 12 play cost, 12,000 DP, 40 Digivolve Mega, alternate Digivolve cost of 1 from a War Greymon, and then all turns when a card is removed from your opponent's security stack, gain 1 memory. Not once per turn, and it's on all turns. So if you swing with a bunch of dudes while he's on the field, you can just gain a bunch of free memory, which I did whenever I had him on the field once or twice. And then on your opponent's turn, if for some reason they do something that trashes a security or takes a security out of their stack, you gain a memory. Not once per turn. Really sick effect. Definitely a really strong effect and needed for this deck in order for it to even try to compete with the other X antibody decks of this format. But the other effect, end of attack once per turn, if War Greymon or X antibody, referring specifically to the option, is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with DP less than or equal to this Digimon's DP. So that means he is naturally killing anything 12,000 DP or lower that cannot protect itself from deletion effects. That's really dumb. If you played against somebody that has this guy and the X antibody option underneath him, you probably already lost. There are very few cards that can out a Mega in this format, and if you ever get this on the field, which I did a few different times with the option underneath him, it's pretty much GG's. Like, your opponent can't do anything about this most of the time. But yeah, very powerful card. I'm fairly certain every game I went into this guy I won, which we only lost like 2 games, I think, in total the entire tournament, so I could probably say that for most of the cards that I drew. That was it for our level 6s. We played 5 of them. And then on to our level 7s. This is just an empty sleeve because I ended up trading it after the tournament, but we did pull a DeathXMon. I wish I had one to show you guys, but I traded it for some alt arts that I wanted from the set, and it was definitely worth it at the time. But DeathXMon, definitely a just filthy card. All right, there we go. This is my proxy for DeathXMon. Just an image on the screen, but very powerful card, the most splashable and ignorant card of the entire BT9 set. For those of you that don't know, I'm going to go ahead and read the effect. It's a 20 play cost, but don't worry, that doesn't really matter, and you're lucky they made it 20, because it would have been even more broken if it were any less. It has 15,000 DP, Digivolves on top of a purple or black for 6 memory, whatever. Then the effect is, when you would play this card, reduce its memory cost by 3 for each Digimon and Tamer your opponent has in play. So that means if your opponent has 7 things on the field, a combination of 7 Tamers and or Digimon on the field, he is negative 21 play cost, and you can just put him on the field for 0 memory. That's really stupid. That's never really going to come up in this sealed format, because you probably would have already lost at that point, because it means your opponent just went wide on you, and I don't know how you wouldn't have already died. But as far as like just regular playing against certain control decks, this will come up to where you can just play him for free or practically free. And the reason why that's so good is he has an on play or when digivolving effect. So either digivolving or on play, it's going to proc this effect, which is pretty good. You digivolve 1 on all of your opponent's Digimon, and then delete all of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So de-digivolving is a really strong mechanic because it can out-boss monsters that have like inherent protection against bouncing or deletion effects. And then you can board wipe low-level Digimon, which is pretty sick. But wait, there's more. The end of your opponent's turn, once per turn, delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. So if your opponent doesn't out this, they have to consistently put something on the field that they know is going to die if they want to put anything on the field. So if they have something they're trying to save, they have to put something next to it with a lower play cost so the thing they want to survive actually dies. Very, very powerful card. If you pulled this card in your pre-release packs, you definitely had a very good chance of winning against any person you played against, assuming you saw this card at any point, or at some point. We did see this card quite often. As I said, I did play that Salmon strictly just to search this card. I did resolve that search one time where I actually did add it to my hand, and my opponent knew it was in my hand the whole game. But yeah, anytime I went into this card, I won the game. There's only a few outs to it, and most people did not pull those cards because those cards are not very common. Yeah, extremely strong, very broken card. Very happy to pull the most busted card in the set in my pre-release packs, and then trade it away for a lot of the alt arts that I wanted in the set. And then onto our options. We did play 2 options. One of them was the X antibody option, so we could proc all those broken secondary effects on our X antibody Digimon. It's a 0 cost white option, and it says while you have a Digimon in play, you may use this card without meeting its color requirements. So it's basically a rainbow card. You can play it whenever, because you're never going to play it without a Digimon on the field. The security effect is gain 1 memory and add this card to your owner's hand. Pretty sick. This was in my security at least twice that I can remember, and one time it did pass my opponent's turn when they were about to swing out with a bunch of rookies, and they swung with the first Digimon, checked this, and it was my turn. Pretty funny. And then main, place this card in one of your Digimon without X antibody its Digivolution cards as its bottom Digivolution card. That is referring to the option itself, so you can't stack this underneath itself. Underneath one of your Digimon. I don't know why you would want to do that, but yeah, you can't do that. It has to not have X antibody underneath it already. And then the inheritables are what gets really fun. All turns effects cannot trash this card from this Digimon's Digivolution card, so basically this card's never gonna get removed from that Digimon unless it's returning it to your hand or deck or security, if that ever comes up with sources. But if it's going to trash, the effect just will fizzle on this card. It won't do anything to it. It'll just stay there. But if it's going anywhere else, just because of the wording on this card, it will actually go away and will be removed from the sources, but it'll go everywhere but the trash. And then the best part of this card is when attacking, this Digimon can Digivolve into a Digimon card with X antibody and its traits in your hand for its Digivolution cards. So what's cool about all the X antibody megas is they do cost 40 Digivolve, which does suck because like typically it's going to pass turn, especially in a sealed format when you don't have a bunch of memory gain and setters and stuff like that. You can swing with your ultimate that has this underneath it and then activate this effect and Digivolve into that mega. And even though it's passing turn, you're still getting that full broken effect. This isn't uncommon, but most people did not pull this option. Obviously, you only get 6 packs, so like the odds of you pulling any one uncommon aren't super high, but I was very lucky to pull this card and see it. I would say about like 40 to 50% of my games. So yeah, this definitely put in work with my megas that I had. And then our last option card, I also pulled this card, which the only reason you would play this is if you also pulled DeathXMon. So we were very lucky to get both of these. This is just a common, so most people probably did see this card in their 6 packs, but there's no reason to play this unless you pulled some of the DeathXMon Digimon or the DeathXMon. So it's a 0 cost option. It is purple, but it says while you have a Digimon with X antibody and its traits in play, you may use this card without meeting its color requirements. Half of the BT9 set has X antibody and its traits, because this is actually referring to any Digimon with the X antibody in its traits. This is not referring to the option, just so you guys are aware. There's just a subtle difference in wording here, in its traits, not in its sources. The effect is main. You may Digivolve one of your Digimon into a Digimon card with Dex or DeathX in its name from your trash for its memory cost. And then the security effect is added to your owner's hand. So this lets you Digivolve into your DeathXMon if it went to your trash somehow, it got checked in security or something, on top of your Mega for 6 memory, and you just get to resolve the effect and potentially nuke your opponent's board. I did resolve this one time. My opponent checked a DeathXMon in my security, or my only DeathXMon I should say, and I had a Mega on the field on my turn, and he was trying to swarm to set up for a game shot on his following turn, and I was like, and I activated this card and Digivolved into DeathXMon and cleared his board because it was a bunch of rookies, and he just lost after that. This card is really good. Being able to resolve DeathXMon's effects and put it on the field more than once in a pre-release event is really stupid. I never used it to put it on the field a second time. It was always just the first time. But still really good to just have this in my hand as like insurance. If my opponent does out my DeathXMon, I can be like, hey, he's back. It definitely won me a game for surezies, so I was happy I put this in the list. But that was my pre-release deck. As I said, I did come in second in the event. I ended up going 3-0-1 in 4 rounds. I drew round 2. I won 2-1 round 1. Round 2 was 1-1-1, and then rounds 3 and 4, I just 2-0'd both my opponents. I super high rolled and just womboed them with all of the broken cards I just saw like in the correct order in my deck. But yeah, really fun event. Sealed is actually probably my favorite format for Digimon, just because of all the cool interactions you can have happen because of the non-color restrictions for Digivolve and stuff like that you can't have happen otherwise. But yeah, we were fortunate. We pulled the DeathXMon in a pre-release packs. It definitely won us several games. Not gonna lie. And in our prize packs, I actually pulled an Alphamon Artyukin. It was the non-alt art, which I used to trade for even more alt arts that I wanted from the set. But having said that, did any of you guys participate in your pre-release events? And if you did, how'd you do? Did you pull anything cool that let you just wombo on somebody? Or did somebody wombo on you? I'm curious about it. Let me know down in the comments. But I do appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy seeing this kind of content and want to come back for more. But until next time, see ya.